Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, let's cover an important area here that so many people get caught into, and we've been brainwashed. It's probably been for the last 40 years of the so-called importance of water. And of course, this is backed up by the fact that your body is, 98% water? Well, that is, of course, ridiculous. And, of course, your body is 98% liquids, which are a combination of all sorts of things, and not H2O, which by itself, there's really nothing there. H2O maybe carries minerals. That's why they say water that's good for you has minerals in it. If you're going to get your minerals from water, you're going to be dead. Now, this whole water thing started, I believe, in the middle to late 70s when the water giant Perrier, I'm not sure who owns them today. They're obviously water from France. Yeah, it's special. You can't drink regular water. You need to have our. After all, we pee in the water. It gives it that special flavor. First of all, sparkling water is bad for you. The process of carbonation, invented by a Britisher, that was then, of course, stolen and patented by, guess who? Schweppes, a German. The usual story there, no inventions, no technology, we steal. So the whole idea is that this is the reality out there. The fact is that carbonated water is not good for you. The process of carbonation happens after something dies. Look at a dead animal on the side of the road. They're bubbling. They're carbonated. Yummy. So the whole idea is that we have to understand that. So that's another fallacy. And of course, carbonation titillates the palate of fools and goofballs that think that there's something special to that. Water in itself is virtually unneeded by the body, and the water in your body is not the water that you drink. That's why when you drink a lot of water, what do you think happens? You pee it out because your body doesn't need it. And it's not cleaning anything out. You're not moving anything out to a great degree. Most of your filtration is in your liver and breathing and skin. This is how you get rid of toxins. And of course, some of it is in your urine. Your kidneys will kick out if you have too much of something in your body. That's what they're supposed to do, particularly salt, which is why there's nothing wrong with eating salt generally, because your body will take it and kick it out if it's working properly. And salt is very good for you. Why? Salt retains water. Oh, that's bad, Dr. Thor. It's going to give you high blood pressure. All that stuff is nonsense. Kicking out water can reduce blood pressure, and you have to consult your physician if you have problems in that area. I'm just talking from an informational basis here. But keeping water is generally good, especially if you're not drinking a lot of it. Now, to keep water, you need to have minerals in your body, which are critical: potassium, magnesium, salt, etc. And of course, salt usually is a combination of many minerals. It's not just salt. Another thing people don't understand: when you get these better salts, these Himalayan, and there's so many salts out there, it's quite fascinating. And they all have a trace amount of minerals in them, which is quite fascinating. So salt is very good for you because you're not just getting salt. You're getting all these minerals that you probably are not getting. Now, the problem is this carry liquids with you 24 hours a day is kind of amusing. When I was in high school and even past that, you didn't see everybody carrying stuff. And everybody, you've got to make sure you hydrate yourself. I mean, this was a statement I heard many, many years ago when they asked a few doctors, well, what is the best thing you can do for yourself in general? Drink more water. Nonsense. How does that do anything? You get water from everything. Everything on this planet is H2O based, and that's where everything comes from. A chicken breast has a cup of water in it. And when people want to, like, what was it, George Foreman would knock the fat out, and they used to show that liquid pouring down there. It had nothing to do with fat. First of all, fat is good for you. That's another fallacy when, of course, the pharmaceutical companies bought off the Harvard, the legitimate Harvard boys. Oh, yes, where's my 50 million so I can go corrupt the world? I have a degree, So the whole idea is that that's what you got. So they bought those worthless scumbags off, who also produce weapons for the worst people on the planet, your politicians, etc. They were bought off to tell everybody that fats were bad and sugars were good. otherwise known as carbohydrates and all the other things to it. So they could produce cheap foods and make millions, as they have done, because the cheap food industry is very profitable. So we have to understand all that goes with it. So this is what happened to misinform you. So you get pure waters from the foods you eat. There's no other pure water you can get. Now, the only pure water out there, technically, is rainwater. And why is that? But I'm not sure how pure it is considering how messed up our environment is right now. But basically, rainwater is distilled water. There's nothing in it. Now, that's what basic distilled water is. The one thing about making your own distilled water is that you make sure if there's any toxins in it, viruses, bacteria, etc., that the distilling products will kill that. And distilled water is very, very good for you. Don't believe the liars and misinformation agents. People who want to sound like they know something. The bottom line is that is just incorrect. You take that water, and of course, when you do that, you remove everything from it. And the only downside to distilled water is you tend to remove all the energetic factors to it that generally is in your environment. Meaning the frequencies, particularly 7.8 atmospheric frequencies that water pick up when they're sitting around or flying through the atmosphere. But there, as I've mentioned, there's pros and cons to that. But you could replace that using pure, wonderful water. Now, there's a real problem with filters as you don't know if they're filtering correctly. You'd have to get rid of filters quite frequently to make sure that they didn't have toxins in them that are being released, maybe in giant capacities. A filter will grab certain toxins, and where does it go? It's held in there, creating bacteria and other poisons. It will reach a point, or could, depending on how the filters are made, that it could then release a whole bunch of toxic products out of the filter into what you drink. And it will keep doing that until you change it. Very dangerous to use filters. The only pure water you can get is through distilling. And distillers, of course, also have a finishing charcoal filter it goes through. This again gets any major problems that may be in there out yet again. But all the bacteria, all the toxins, which are very common. I mean, a lot of people have the Legionnaires disease or bacteria in their water and they're unaware of it. This can happen in any water source because you don't heat it up enough to kill the bacteria in it. So you end up drinking it, and of course, this can cause death and other things. It's pandemic all over Europe because they don't heat their water up enough in their homes. So very sloppy work done all over Europe, which doesn't have the water hot enough, trying to save a couple of pennies while toxifying their people. Very, very common. There are filters you can get for this, which I do have on my showers and other places, so I'm not inundated with this stuff because they can't turn up the thermostat. That's too high-techy. So the whole idea is that this is the reality that's out there. So that's the only good water you can get. Now, what you do with that, and I have a whole system of taking care of water that I've developed over my 50 years of research and everything else in this field. I'm the number one expert in this field for over 40 years. I've written 35 books, 5 courses. I've been on BBC and CNN, and of course, I'm the expert in this field. If you haven't heard of me, that's your problem, not mine. And the bottom line is that I've reached a very high level of consciousness, the highest that a human can reach. These are facts, people. Follow the stooges that give you trash and lead you down the path to destruction. That's where you're going if you don't follow the truth. Follow fools and you become a fool. So moving on into that. So the point is that you make your distilled water. You can get a distiller for about $250, and you can make your water. And I had several of these going when I used lots of water, but generally one will get you going. The drawbacks is, of course, you're going to have to use some electricity. Now, this generally is not that much, and these are sealed distiller units, so you're not boiling a pot on the stove that leaks a lot of hot air so that you have to keep heating it up. So these are sealed units. They heat up quickly, and you start dripping it out through the charcoal filter into a glass container. And make sure you get a distiller that comes with a glass container and not one of the plastic ones. And of course, that takes about 3 or 4 hours to make approximately almost a gallon. And sometimes you may need more of that. So you're either going to have to store it, make bigger containers, whatever, or get a couple of distillers. I had 2 of these going at one time out on my patio when I lived in a hot area. So if you have problems dealing with heat, you have to understand it does produce heat. And if you live in a cold climate, in the wintertime, these things are a joy because you heat up your bathroom and it's toasty warm in there when you take a shower. Very, very interesting and a great way to save money on heating and other things. Now, once you produce theirs, kind of a energetically low water. There isn't much energy left in it because it's been boiled. There is energy in it, and of course, being in the atmosphere in general, and of course, you took that water from your tap, there is still energy in there. It's not completely dead. But the bottom line, it doesn't have all the toxins in there, and of course, it doesn't have the minerals in there as well. You do not get your minerals from water. You'd have to drink 50 gallons of water a day to get any minerals from them. If you'd get any, you'd have to drink mineral water full of plastics, which is how all waters come now. They all come in plastic bottles, and you're just drinking plastic. They've been put in environments that are warm, they've leached into it. Drinking mineral water from anywhere in plastic is worth less. Drinking carbonated water is bad for you. So all of this stuff that you've been told is different, so these mineral water sellers can make a fortune, is all wrong. There's no value to it whatsoever, and you're never going to get enough minerals that way to do anything. Water is not designed to bring you minerals. Plain and simple, it never was. You get your minerals from food and other things. There's not enough in there. Is that shocking to anybody? If it is, you're kind of a little dumb. So the whole idea is that water generally does not also bring your body's water up either. Most of the water you drink in, and the more water you drink in, the more that you pee out. Why is that? It's not hydrating the body. It's doing nothing. Actually, you're overworking your kidneys, which don't really need the extra work. Most of the toxins that you get out of your body don't come in your urine. They come from your sweat. They come from your breathing. They come through your liver. And of course, there are some that go through the kidneys. But when you drink a lot of water, you're just filtering out this stuff. That's why you're not getting any kind of benefits from it. And as we all know, if you drink a lot of water, not only do you pee a lot, but you also, your urine turns basically clear. What does that mean? There's nothing in it. So why are you drinking more of it? Coca-Cola tells me to. Which is nothing more than filtered tap water that they put in plastic bottles. And it is thought that these plastic bottles at bottling companies, no matter whom they are, not thought, is known. They make the bottles on site. You don't import a whole bunch of bottles by the millions and put them in a warehouse. I mean, this would be an impossible task. So you make the bottle as you need them, which is still warm, and then you fill it up, still warm. So the problem is that all that time the plastic is leaching into what you're drinking. Now, it's recently come out that we have huge quantities of plastic in our brain. Now, we're going to be doing a little video on that very soon. But this is now a serious problem, which I hope to eliminate by using frequency energies, these scalar energies, to hopefully remove the toxicity of this in people's energetic field, so that we can harmonize the brain properly. So the whole idea is that these are all the things you get into. So you're not going to get any waters out there, and these special plastics that don't leach their junk. This is fantasy. You can't drink anything out of any type of plastic, period. The fact that they convert from one plastic to another means that, well, you got different toxins in there. The only pure water you can make is yourself, plain and simple. And as I said, using distillers is easy. It's kind of a little pain. Distillers get dirty and everything else, and about every 10 or 15 distillations, you have to then clean it with vinegar, let it sit there, and there is a problem there because you're getting out all those fairly toxic minerals that are in your drinking water. Now, the other thing you want to do, which I do as well, and I'll be showing this system yet again, there's two systems. I have a system that I use all the time, which is used to put 7.8 frequency back into the water, or put it into the water at a high level. This is a unique system that I don't see anywhere, and nobody seems to be buying it. A pretty foolish thing to do. But you take your distilled water, you pour it in the jug provided by them, which unfortunately is plastic, but there's no heat involved, so you're not really getting an effect there. You could use a glass pitcher, and I'm starting to move over to that myself. You put the generator on top of that bowl, that pitcher, and you'll have to see it. I'm not going to 10 minutes to give you a picture by words here. And it shoots 7.8 frequencies into the water, bringing it up to a very high pure level. You'll never get that amount of 7.8 frequencies, the frequency that really sustains all life, in any other way. The atmosphere does not bring the water up to that level. So you're getting a very high level. You're also getting a super, super high level because I provide a special energy disc with my system, and I also provide a unique non-electric 7.8 frequency disc that is valuable. This is it. So you're getting a lot of it. You then take that water after it takes a half an hour for it to empower the water. You then take the water out of that plastic container, if you're using that, and you pour it into a glass one. Now, in the glass one, you also have a series of charging items. You can do it that way, but you also, which are generally crystals and other things, this adds energy in there if you want to do that. Well, I've got over that by the fact that we now have, under the glass water containers, we have my special discs. These discs empower the water inside there with tachyons, neutrinos, and gravitons, or any other energy you want to put in there. You can also put in there frequencies for love, protection, etc., uncrossing, etc. So you can make the water into its own little energy. Now, the problem with that is that, of course, it charges it up, and these are one ways to get a small amount of energy into your body. But when you put anything into water and then it goes into your system, it generally, the energy there is dispatched very quickly. It doesn't stay crystalline in another fantasy. So that is the way to use the highest and best water to get into that. But getting back to Emoto and other things, this has been a big fraud that's been perpetrated on people. And of course, thanks to the What the Bleep film done by J.Z. Knight, the channeler, who's ran an organization for over 42 years, a successful one. Not necessarily something that I agree with her philosophy, but we certainly need other opinions out there other than the garbage that we get from common goofball society. But I'm not a fan of hers per se, but I'm not a fan of anybody per se. That's why I have my own reality going with all the real best working tech. And everything else that you need in life, basically, this organization provides. And this is valid technology, which you're not going to get anywhere else. These people who are channelers, who are doing all sorts of things and basically producing nothing. But she produced the What the Bleep movie, which was turned into become very popular. I found it to be a very good movie, and the information in there is generally good. But the term there is generally. We have to look at every aspect. But it certainly gave an interesting outlook into the world and pretty much a quantum physics understanding of reality. When you get into certain things, particularly Emoto and his water research, you're getting into sketchy and bad areas. Emoto basically tricked the public, putting out highly doctored photographs of what he stated basic thought forms could do. Now, Emoto, a guy that really has no background whatsoever, he has no credentials, he didn't finish any higher education. He got a degree from India, Gupta land, degree that was from a degree mill, stating that this is what he was classified as doing that. So he doesn't have any qualifications. So with that, and then showing his photos, which look fairly impressive, which are highly doctored. He's actually stated that. He says, these is more of an art form. And these pictures are meant to be taken as an art form and not as scientific photograph. Now, he stated this himself. Now, he was also challenged, which, of course, I don't blame him for turning it down, by the unamazing Randy to prove his stuff under scientific conditions. Of course, you can't go to the devil to prove your situation. The whole unamazing Randy was just a big scam for him to set you up. Because there's no way he's ever going to give money out. There's no way that he's ever going to allow anything. And if you're in charge of the bank, you are in a unscientific position because you are now highly prejudiced. So you can't do your own research to test somebody else's stuff if you're going to give people money or if there's some conflict of interest. Certainly, him and his goofball theatrical magicians who make tens of millions of dollars making people look like fools by tricking them with some of the most simplistic things is shocking. But he certainly didn't even seem to answer that or anything else. But the bottom line is that his research is bogus. But what his research really boils down to is what? Well, you write something on a piece of paper, love, and then you put this on a jug of water. Now, what you're doing there when you do that is just simple, basic thought forms 101. This is preschool stuff where you're putting a thought form, which is basically a informational, energetic field of energy that you've generated from your consciousness. And all of this has been proven now that the consciousness and the projection of psychic energies is very valid and real because advanced societies use this exclusively. This has been proven. It's also been proven by 150 years of research done in regular Earth being land by all sorts of people. So all of this, of course, has been proven, but you're just creating a thought form. This is all what is brought people into different stages of success in life when they use any type of product, and it's called the placebo effect. Now, your thought forms are energy, and if you project into a glass of water love energy, that water will have a certain amount of love energy in there. Will it do anything? Will it take an evil, rotten person and fill them with love? Will it have someone fall in love with you? No. No, it has a little bit of love energy that generally doesn't do anything in the bigger picture. Plain and simple. And that goes for anything you're going to put in water. It's not strong enough. It doesn't hold a big enough charge. It's all that kind of stuff you run into. So the bottom line with it is that it is a big, giant fraud. Now, thought forms and can do things. The power of thought forms used in a consistent, tunable way where you focus it like you do with radionic machines, which have no energy in them at all, but it's focused intent. When you focus intent, and there are many ways to do this, and this has been proven again from 30 years of research, supposedly. I haven't verified it 100%, but William Bankston, a Dumbadamia person who's been doing this, has been able to cure mice and people of almost everything by using direct intention in his particular visualization method, which is a fast visualization method. And he claims to have done almost anything with it, and has from what I understand, without going into really spending weeks or months investigating it, through what are considered proper scientific methods. And as I said, he's even worked on mice, which he got okay from. So it's very interesting that this has been proven. Now, and so is psychic power and everything else. It's been proven pretty much beyond a shadow of a doubt, certainly as much as all the other stuff. I mean, after all, we get all those wonderful things proven by through science by the drug companies, and then they're pulled off the market because they're killing people. So, I mean, we have to understand all the bigger understandings that's going on here. So, when we get involved in this, but we cannot believe any side of the aisle. The point is, you have the brainwashed Dumbadamia people living in the fantasy that we can't go faster than the speed of light, living in 500-year-old Newtonian physics, followed up by Mr. Einstein, we can't go fast, my feet hurt me. Ooh. So the whole idea is that this is kind of nonsense. And the psychobabble we get from these people that want to tell us that they know something when there's nothing of value that science has ever done beyond the common. We have not solved our two main problems in life, which is the production of clean, renewable energy and the curing of human diseases. We're not even close with either of those, so they tell us. So the whole idea is that this is the problem. And this is what these people continue to give us the same. There hasn't been a breakthrough in physics in, since the 40s? Maybe before that? I think since the 1920s. Nothing has changed. Nothing has been found to do anything, plain and simple. Science has assisted, and you got to remember that engineers are not scientists. Engineers take what is supposed to be a proved technology and make it work or prove it doesn't work. So until something gets down to the engineering reality where we actually put it into use and prove its value, it's just mumbo jumbo. So it's just green eggs and ham. It's meaningless. So the whole idea is we have to understand that and understand what's going on in the bigger picture. But the whole idea is Emoto's work has never been proven. The fact with water is that you don't need a lot of water. People who are very healthy, and they go back to people that don't. And can you think who had access to water? Well water's probably got to be the worst type of water to drink. It's full of whatever was in the ground there, whether it's good or bad. A lot of people have died from well water. A lot of people have gotten diseases. It's very terrible to put something in there. If water is not running, there's a problem. But again, any water that has access to the particular climate or outside or whatever wants to dump in it, poo in it, etc., is not good necessarily to drink. So the whole idea is when you get to people that don't have access, then you got to remember that the access to fresh water has never been something that has been available for most of the time until recently. In olden days, everybody drank beer. Now, why did they drink beer? Because water was filthy and full of bacteria. So you basically had beer, which has a certain alcohol content in it, so that bacteria can't grow in it easily. So pretty much everybody was drunk for most of their lives. So that's what they'd drink first thing in the morning, and they would go from there. And of course, this makes sense. Because you didn't have access. Storing water is difficult, dangerous. All of that goes with that people don't understand. Drinking lots of water brings you nothing. As I said, there's no enough mineral content in any water that you're going to get any minerals from it of any value. You can charge it all you want, but it lasts only for a short period of time. So none of that stuff is going to stay in that water. The crystalline nature of water is kind of a joke, but whatever's in that crystalline structure, like in regular crystals that I've used for 50 years, I've never gotten any decent results from them. Crystals are interesting. I love crystals, particularly clear quartz and stones in general that are polished and look beautiful. But in terms of any energetic factors to them, it's nothing. There's only one energetic factor that counts, and that's informational energetic forms that are produced in a particular way and amplified like crazy through giant amplifiers, special types of amplifiers, modified amplifiers, and then they are transmitted to a particular target, yourself or others. That's the only thing that works. And you can listen to a bunch of other fools, but they have absolutely no proof to anything. So when someone comes out and gives you all this nonsense, there is no proof of any of it. And of course, we can't listen to regular science that believes in basically whatever the corporations tell them to believe in because they're going to make billions off of it. So we have to be careful. The bottom line is that there is no experts. You can't trust anybody, and everybody's got a hidden agenda. I'm saving the world by charging water with little pieces of paper that have numbers on them. Well, this is the lowest level of using energies. And again, it gets down to thought forms. And just as radionic tools, which are basically intention machines, are putting out such little energy. Now, why does all this stuff tend to work to a certain extent? Oh, I know a guy that this and that, blah, 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 blah. He was going to die in 2 minutes and he took this and he's living now. Now he's pumping iron. He's a big, giant guy. Well, all of this stuff is just, not only is it hearsay, I always find that none of this stuff really is true. But the bottom line is we cannot... Now, thought forms are another form of, again, informational energetic fields that you are producing. This is what? This is called by bogus science placebos. But placebos are, again, this intention energy. And medical science, because it can't really do anything, has now been using this extensively and testing it. They're even taking people into the operating room, faking operations. I think they even cut into them, and then sew them back up, and then bring them out. So, well, we did the operation. How are you feeling? Oh, I feel great. Oh, wonderful. I never felt better. Or they give them a pill, and the pill, of course, is nothing is in it. And they say, well, how did that work for you? Now, the point is that this is called placebo. And it's very interesting because I just heard, I forget what it was now, and they said, well, compared to the placebo, this had a 34% effect, and the placebo had a 39% effect. You're trying to tell me that the so-called effective tool was only 4% more effective than the placebo? Well, economically, you're better off just taking placebos. because there's nothing in that. So this is what's so shocking about the scientific placebo. And I don't believe in placebos because this is the problem you run into. But the bottom line is that when you start adding that in and giving people, particularly who are sick, something that doesn't work, this is pretty evil science because they know it doesn't work. But does it? Point is, some of the placebos do work. As I said, medical science has been doing this to a great degree. I've read about this extensively, saw a few documentaries on it, and it's shocking. People who are super sick, people who are in pain, and everything else. Now, everybody does this, though. I used to do this all the time when getting different medications from doctors, etc. It appeared to work for the first week or two. Why? Because after that, nothing happened. Well, that's because that's when your fantasy is overcome by the fact that you're still in pain, still have the problem. But anybody who's positive wants it to work. So you take something and say, well, I think I do feel a little better, doctor here. Can I get some more of that rat poo that you said was so good for me? So the whole idea is that that's what happens. Now, this placebo effect, which tends to happen quite quickly, but there's really no change. These people don't come back with perfect scores or whatever things that they weren't in the past. And secondly, almost all of these people go from the placebo effect to the placebo letdown effect. And that's usually from anywhere from 3 to 6 months, where all of a sudden they are worse than they were before. And a lot of people will say this. Well, I don't understand it. I was working for the first couple of months. Yeah, you were living in fantasy land and using your mind and your body, and you were ignoring pain and other things, thinking that something was working because you were taking this little pill or whatever else you were doing. That's why almost anything works for people. That's why when you see all this bad tech out there and they have testimonials and other things, well, you're going to get a placebo effect that can be as high as 40%. And on average, it's about 20%. So 20% of people. And if you sell to 1,000 people, it means 200 of those say that it worked for them. And, well, that's good enough for me, I'll buy it. Well, it isn't. And that's the problem with all this stuff. That's why ultimately in life you have to find out what works for you. And that's why there's so many different medications. I don't know how many types of antibiotics there are, but there must be 50, 60, maybe hundreds for all we know. Different types that have different effects, and you have to find the one that works for you. And a lot of people have very negative effects to anything. It can be aspirin. A lot of people can't take aspirin. They have serious problems with it. It's like food stuff, food allergies. You get a little bit of peanut fungus, which is on all nuts to a degree, and it can kill you. And it's a lot of people have this allergy to this fungus that grows on peanuts, which is on all peanuts, by the way. And if you don't get bad effects, you're still eating it and your body's still fighting that fungus. Or a little help to there. Yeah. A little ode to Tyson. I'm going to show you how smart I am because I regurgitate things that are meaningless to most people. So the whole idea is that we get into these things that we have to understand of what's going on. And the horrible situations that we run into with water is shocking. Well, this is the end of part 1. We'll pick up in part 2.